That's what it amounts to. 9/11 is that. Now, you probably will bring up the same question on 9/11 tonight, because we have a new 9/11 which is clearly in the making from a different quarter. And yet we have yet to remove the cover-up of 9/11, which was done by 2 presidencies. And this suppression of this is tantamount to a reason for punishment, for the expulsion from office and penalties out there too, which should have been applied to the Cheney administration, because Dick Cheney, or Dirty Dick Cheney, better qualified, named for fracking and similar other kinds of dirty things. Now, Cheney is a pure evil guy, and he has the same temperament that's shown by Obama. The hell with you. I'm in charge. I don't care what the law is. I'm in charge. That's what Obama says. That's what Cheney said. And Cheney pushed through the 9/11 cover-up. And now, as I said, we know, and no cover-up can now conceal it. The 9/11 was organized by the British Empire with its Saudi associates. We are now imminently facing a new Saudi-British operation, who has not designated its assigned target area, but we know that the thing lies out there. It has some target, so we have another international 9/11 case again. And the administration is still covering it up. Now, any honest United States administration would have thrown these guys out of office and into the jug, because the crimes they've committed in what they've done, impeachable offenses, go beyond mere impeachable offenses. They go to the question of murder, etc., and cover-up of crimes, major crimes. If you have a president of the United States who is flaunting his powers in breaking the law, breaking the constitutional law repeatedly, and he's not being thrown out, you have to say, what kind of cowardice, a stinking cowardice in particular, do we have in much of our ruling elements of government? Now we have the CIA chief, who is highly suspect for moral reasons and related reasons. He's a key figure. But the fact is, the operation is essentially that of Obama. This is his baby. And a terrible baby he is. All right, so therefore, cowardice raised. The American people want out. We're actually on the verge of thermonuclear war. The intention of thermonuclear war is that which the British Empire has made clear before. The Queen herself. The Queen, of course, is the Empress. She's the Empress of the British Empire. She's not just the Queen of England. She's the Empress of the British Empire. And it's the British Empire that controls the greatest part of the territory of this planet. Now also controls Western and Central Europe to a large degree, including what was formerly the states of Europe, are now essentially almost powerless. They're under the regime and total control of the British Empire. We have a division now in this whole context, and part of the understanding of this context means that we've gone through a provocative action directed by the British monarchy and coordinated by the British monarchy through its control over the Western European system. The stooge in this thing is Obama. Obama is nothing but a stooge but the British Queen. That's all he ever was. He never had any other basis. He, however, is totally tied to Dick Cheney. And Cheney is actually much smarter than Obama, and is the thug of record who's put into the situation to help control the situation for Obama. The first operation in which this impeachment process came into effect was a plan for trying to bluff Russia into backing down to a series of heavy pressures, which were the purpose of this operation, which was British in intention and supported by Obama and by Cheney. The intention was to try to pressure Russia into making back-down conditions which would have made the defensibility of Russia's southern flank impossible. So what happened is the president of Russia refused to crack it down. Obama and the British have put on all kinds of things, putting bans against leading figures of Russia, which are not effective bans because Russia's not going to accept them. But what's the point? The purpose was originally, the reason why they went with this back-down attempt against Russia was in hope that Russia would be caved in. But it didn't cave in. Now that means that they go back to Plan A. Cave-in was Plan B. Now comes Plan A. Plan A is general thermonuclear global warfare. And it was the hope that they could get by a bluffing action to cause Russia to collapse by a flanking operation against Russia's southern flank, that they would be able to make a piecemeal approach of their intention, to an intention. Now they are in a situation where they're struggling to start an actual thermonuclear war. The Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States and other institutions say no. And it's under these pressures that heads of suction of the Congress have said, after 7 years, we're not going to give in this time. Why has this issue come up in this form? Because people in the Congress and in the Joint Chiefs and other parts of our government know that a thermonuclear war is the potential here. And they're working to block it. Therefore, the British monarchy, the British Queen, and her stooge, leading stooge, Obama, along with those fascist women who Obama cultivates as his circle, including the Cheney branch of this stuff, and they're now trying to prepare for, in effect, launching a thermonuclear war. Now, they hope to cause the U.S. government itself to back down. Our institutions of government, they're demanding now, and insane demands. Here's a president who is utterly impeachable, and this animal, this president who's better qualified as an animal than a human being, and his CIA chief, who is of a similar quality, are now trying to buffalo the president of the United States, the presidency of the United States, by the president and by the CIA, etc., and trying try to do what they tried to do against Putin, and which they're trying to do now against the real institutions of the United States, the Senate in particular, and other such institutions. So this is what the whole thing is all about. It's one package. It's not little things one at a time, one at a time. It's a whole dynamic package which has been underway for a very long time. But people didn't notice it, so they say it's new. I mean, the guy's dragging along with no pants, underpants, no pants and underpants or shoes. He's walking down the street on parade, and he just didn't know it all this time. And that's the situation of many of our leaders of our government so far.
Well, as you mentioned, you have said that the unsolved mystery of the Malaysian air flight MH370 must be treated as a probable 9/11 copycat for Asia. Now, I want to review some of the indicators that our intelligence has pulled together. Such a 9/11 operation at this time, what is its relationship to the British drive for World War III, and why is it apparently being covered up by Obama?
Because Obama's complicit. And I can prove it. I can prove it to anyone who knows intelligence, actual strategic intelligence. First of all, the mistake that is being made is the attempt to find a local event which might correspond in effect to something like this already gone before. That is not the case. What we're looking at now, when you take the complexities of this and known elements of participant in this complexity, you know exactly what it is, or at least I know what it is exactly. Now, I got on this case early in this week, actually from Sunday on through Monday, and made my contacts with relevant circles in Washington. And we had one of our leading people in our staff following up this issue, and we're compiling and coordinating that information with his information and the information he gets from other sources. Now, the thing you have to do is take a global, not a regional, but a global map. And you have to look at a map of thermonuclear warfare as I have defined the intention heretofore. So that part, there is no mystery whatsoever. And when you think about this, what is the center of control of this series of attacks? The Queen of England. She is the bitch who's at the center of all of this terror. Of thermonuclear warfare as I have defined the intention heretofore. So that part, there is no mystery whatsoever. And when you think about this, what is the center of control of this series of attacks? The Queen of England. She is the bitch who's at the center of all of this terror. This series of attacks. The Queen of England. She is the bitch who's at the center of all of this terror. Obama is one of her chief sub-agents in this process. Always has been. Cheney is also implicated in this process. Now just think of one thing that's very important about Cheney. The cover-up of 9/11. There was never a legitimate reason for the cover-up of 9/11. Young Bush didn't have the guts or brains to even understand that. This was Dick Cheney, dirty Dick Cheney, very, very dirty Dick Cheney, and a certain lady who is also a fascist proponent. And Cheney is essentially a fascist. Obama is implicitly a fascist. And when he broke from the Constitution of the United States by trying to pass through as legislation, as presidential decrees, which defied the rights of the Congress. He defined himself as an enemy of the United States because he's in complicity with enemies of the United States. Enemy of the United States, number one, 9/11. Who was the author? The principal two authors were primarily in the financing and overall arranging of 9/11 was the British monarchy, the British Empire. The Saudis are part of the British Empire. The Saudi forces then, through their people, orchestrated 9/11. All of the attacks were done directly by for example, the ambassador to the United States in Saudi Arabia was a key instrumentalist inside the United States, operating inside the United States as an ambassador to the United States in Saudi Arabia, and he was orchestrating the organization of the 9/11 attacks. And Cheney was fully implicated in the whole thing, fully winning. And nonetheless, they went along, where Cheney was in control of the President of the United States at that time. Cheney went along and put through this 9/11 agreement, which was a fraudulent one. Okay, who did this? Well, it was done, the British did it. The British Empire did it. Now, we've seen what recently, in recent weeks, especially, we've seen an attack against Russia. And I've told people, you guys are idiots. This is not a local issue in Europe. It is not an issue between Russia and the other nations in Europe. It has nothing to do with it as such. You've got a bunch of Nazis who the British and others have put into place with support of Obama, who's supporting outright Nazis, which is known to the United States as being Nazis. That is, they are a continuation of the original organization of the Nazi killer operation, the SS. This was the Ukrainian SS, the Ukrainian branch of the Nazi SS. And it's a continuous organization. There were deaths in the organization from old age and so forth. But the organization as such has never been broken. Right? So this Nazi organization was supported by the British monarchy, and by President Obama. That too is a crime. A crime against the United States, again, by the Bush administration, specifically Cheney, 9/11. 9/11 was a fraud against the United States and a homicidal fraud against the United States in general.